Malamulele, a ghost town not so long ago, now returning to normal.
I feel happy, but the protest must continue until we get our municipality because we want jobs.
It's okay, I did not do business for a long time, but as long as we finally get our own municipality.
It's back to business for hawkers and the rest of the business community in the area. Public transport is flowing. Police are, however, still keeping a strong presence. But schooling remains suspended at this village. This school is one of the 4 that was touched this week.
I feel bad because when I came here, my parents said me because they want me to achieve something. So I can't achieve something when there is no school.
Kam returned to the area after a high-level government delegation, including the Cooperative Government Minister Pravin Gordhan and Police Minister Ngosinathi Nhleko intervened this week. This resulted in government offering the Malamulele community a service delivery package deal. The deal will see service delivery being fast-tracked. Structures will meet on Sunday to discuss the deal. Earlier today, the Municipal Demarcation Board reaffirmed its decision not to grant Malamulele its own municipality.
The Act provides that the demarcation objectives and all the factors must be taken into account when determining municipal boundaries. Those criteria include spatial integration, inclusive tax base, patterns of human settlement, commuting and transport movement, the Malamulele proposal itself, which given its spatial context was limited to the splitting of Thulamela municipality into 2.
It's unclear whether Malamulele will give the service delivery package deal a chance. A decision will be taken at Sunday's meeting.
Well, there you have it, a discussion that is going to have a lot of people thinking twice, and we have a reporter on the ground in Malamulele to attend that meeting that is going to be held this afternoon. We will, during the course of the program, talk to our reporter who is in Malamulele. But now to discuss the process, legal and constitutional requirements, including the role of communities in establishing or redetermining municipal boundaries, let's welcome in the studio with us Mr. Landiwe Mahlangu, past immediate chairman of the Demarcation Board, and Professor Tinyiko Maluleke from the University of Pretoria. Gentlemen, welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Thank you.
First of all, Mr. Mahlangu, the question I would like to know, first of all, let's get this out of the way. What is the mandate of the Demarcation Board?
Well, the mandate of the board, it's really derived from the Constitution. It's one of those constitutional bodies that have been mandated to actually determine and redetermine, the municipal boundaries. So in that case, it is and still remains an independent authority that is actually charged specifically to look at the municipal boundaries.
The other thing what concerns me, can citizens get together and organize themselves and request for a redetermination of boundaries, as we have seen in Malamulele?
Yes, they do. They do, like any other, process in the country. Obviously, the manner in which the board will deal with the request of the citizen will be quite different if that, from the request that is coming from what I would probably call statutory authorities. Here you're talking about the minister, you're talking about, local government. But yes, there is a provision that actually allows citizens to actually make proposals to the Demarcation Board, and there's a specific process in which that's handled, which is somewhat slightly different if it's going to be handled.
Do the citizens, I read somewhere in the Constitution that is the MEC who has to decide, put the request to the Demarcation Board. Do the citizens have to put their request to the MEC?
The citizens can put their request to the MEC. It's obviously a preferred route. Because ultimately it is the MEC and the local governments that would have to, they're key stakeholders in that matter. But the Act of the board does allow a situation whereby a citizen can put a request directly to the board, in which case the Demarcation Board would have to take initiative so as it were the board will, to use maybe a better word, sponsor that kind of request. So there is a provision for a citizen to actually interact with the board.
Professor, you have been very critical of the way the people of Malamulele have gone about this whole thing?
Well, I'm critical not only of the people of Malamulele. I think it's important to say that I'm critical of the way the Thulamela municipality has handled the whole thing also. And I have every respect for the demarcation board following the provisions of the constitution. But part of the problem in Malamulele and everywhere is that some of the real issues are not on the table. I mean, we're talking about demarcation as if it is just a demarcation issue. And we know that there are a lot more issues than just demarcation. If, for example, the issue is service delivery, as you hinted at right at the beginning, the question is own municipality the only way to get service delivery in Malamulele? And you could argue that there are many other possible ways in which the people of Malamulele can get what they want without necessarily insisting on an own municipality. But then you see they're insisting on an own municipality because it is issues that concern more than just service delivery. Issues of control, issues of power, issues of who gets this tender and who doesn't get the tender, issues of who gets employed and who doesn't get employed. Now, if you broaden the notion of service to include all of these things, then perhaps we are talking the same language. So for me, the Malamulele community, in insisting only on the municipality of their own, I am very critical of that. But the Thulamela and the authorities to pretend that these issues of nepotism and tribalism do not exist, that also is problematic.
We'll get to those issues. We'll get to those issues. I just want to go back to Mr. Matlangu. Yeah. Mr. Matlangu, this issue has been around since 2009. And I find it strange that up to now, this issue has not been dealt with properly.
It is true. It is true. It has been around even during my tenure as a board. It's an issue that has always been with the board. We have to recall that the manner in which and the pace at which the first initial wave of municipal boundary reconfiguration was done in if you like, in a quite a very short space of time. I mean, you recall that the first board, which was headed by Dr. Mike Sutcliffe, were given about 15 months to actually reconfigure what was quite clearly a very fragmented, local special context. And invariably you would have expected that somewhere down along the line there would be issues that are coming up. They clearly comply with all the requirements, and I think, in my view, they did quite a fairly sterling work, given the context and the time frame. But yes, I think it's not only Malamulele. Issues have actually come up. As people get used to these arrangements now, they start asking questions. Yeah.
Oh yes, the other question is, you say the board under Mike Sutcliffe, Dr. Mike Sutcliffe, was given 15 months. It says, therefore, there was very little time for public participation. Should a process like this have public participation?
No, there certainly was public participation. There's hardly any process in the board that cannot involve public participation. Maybe because this was more of an initial one, perhaps it would have been a participation that was somewhat, I must admit, in some instances, maybe truncated. I mean, it was quite shortened. But certainly there was participation, and the board processes. And I think, as you've heard, the chairperson of the board said, has to. I cannot think of any process where the board can make a decision without some form of public participation. It is institutionalized in its process.
During the week, Prof, the Minister of Traditional Affairs and Cooperative Governance made the point that he was in the process of looking at all municipalities in Limpopo and all the municipal arrangements and boundaries in Limpopo, simply because there's a great deal of strife within those municipalities in terms of service delivery.
Strife and dysfunction. I think that there are some municipalities which are simply not functioning as well as they were intended to. And I mean, it's one thing to make a decision about demarcation 5 years, 10 years ago. I think it is important to revisit some of these decisions and not merely say that because we once made this decision, the decision must stand regardless. Because sometimes, as he rightly says, the decisions were made rather quickly, and not all eventualities were really foreseen and considered. And I think I welcome the minister's saying that there is need to look at all of them and not just Malamulele. But I wonder why only Limpopo. I think that this is a national issue. We really need to go back and look at the whole lot of issues concerning municipalities nationally, because many of the hotspots in the country, there are similarities. Just because Malamulele there's an issue of tribalism doesn't mean you don't have similar issues elsewhere, for example.
Well, if you'd like to join us in today's discussion, you can call us on 011 714 5497 or 5498, or tweet us at Recourse, or email us if you have anything that you'd like to suggest. We'll be back after the break.
Nelson Mandela. That was, for me, having an opportunity to make a film about something he said. He's one of my heroes, and he makes me proud to be African.
Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island and in other jails as a result of his struggle to end apartheid in South Africa before becoming the country's first black president in 1994.
So you make movies, like Spielberg?
Yeah, I make movies like Spielberg.
Join Musam Khalifi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
Welcome back, and Mr. Batlangu, leaving Malamulele for a minute or two whilst we're discussing demarcation throughout the country. Apparently there are other hotspots in South Africa. I remember seeing your last communique before you left office where you identified what is going to happen in terms of demarcation in all of the other provinces. Can you let us in some of those?
Well, I don't think I will be in a position, for instance, to actually say whether those hotspots are still hot. But because I mean, really, I would imagine maybe the current board may have engaged these issues. But I think the point is, it is true. I think Prof has actually indicated there are, if you like, concerns, and some of them are quite genuine, and indeed contestation in terms as to the current reconfiguration, and I guess that part of the problem maybe why Malamulele, for instance, came to the fore, and why the board took the view the way it did, because it has to also take into account that as a board, and one of its key really attribute of the board is to be consistent, it's to be independent. Because if you then, for instance, make a decision in a particular case, in one case, then you may have to either justify why you didn't do the same. In that, I think it's common cause that I think one of the cases, for
the danger, as you say, I think Prof spoke about it, is a danger of looking at the tribalism, and then you make a determination based largely on the tribalism that is being exploited by the people of Malamulele, and somebody else, some will say, you did that in Malamulele, why can't you do it with us?
Yeah, the issue, if you'd asked me a year ago or so, the issue, I think, of tribalism, yes, the tribal identity could play a role, but I think, and this is my view, I think we're making too much tribalism issue.
Let's pick up this call from Mabale from Gauteng. Mabale, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Yes, how are you, sir?
Well, thanks. How are you?
No, I'm okay. My problem is about the issue of Malamulele, whereby it's always taken as a tribalism issue. On my side, I don't think it's a tribalism issue because even the people who represented those guys from Malamulele never talk about tribalism. What is needed is just service delivery, as well as the way they employ the people over there. Because, as black, we sometimes take the municipality as the one that provides job opportunities. If you look at the issue of Malamulele, you'll find that there are certain people who are not employed. Only they just concentrate on one side, leaving the other side. When you go to Malamulele, as I'm speaking, I lived there for many years before I relocated to Gauteng. When you go to Malamulele, all the traffic cops come from the other side. I don't want to mention because we'll take it as tribalism. You go to the hospital, same people are there.
Okay, we get your point. We get your point, Mabale. We get your point. Let us just go through it. That's what we're talking about. To make a determination based on what people say is tribalism. Could be dangerous.
I think I was just making the point to say I think we're really making too much out of the issue of tribalism. I think there are genuine issues that I think have been raised, and I think those issues relates to service, more kind of service delivery and the inequity in which that is being executed. Because I can say that even if the majority of the people that actually need services happens to be Tsonga speaking, that does not delegitimize their concern. I mean, there are municipalities, in KZN where there's almost 80 or 90% of Zulu-speaking people, and that does not in any way make that municipalities and their communities less legitimate when they actually express themselves. You had mentioned earlier on, I mean, there were instances in for instance areas like Stacksbridge, which largely speaking it was more in the case of again a demand to actually separate the municipalities into two. And my recollection there, it's quite a fairly monolithic society. So I'm just simply saying is that while yes the tribal issue or let me say the language issue becomes obviously the most uncomfortable dimension on this, but I think we're spending too much on it. There are genuine grievances that are actually underlying.
Let's go to those genuine grievances. Prof, you mentioned some of those grievances. They've largely to do with service delivery.
Yes, I think the core of it is service delivery, and that's why for me the insistence only on an own municipality as a solution is a bit short-sighted. That's not to say own municipality would not work. That it couldn't be one of the possible solutions. It could be, but I'm saying let's look for more other types of solutions and not just the own municipality. Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you call it. Consider this caller who called us now. His first sentence was, "It's not tribalism," but his last sentence was that there is a bit of tribalism that is happening there. So, when a municipality is seen as something to be captured by a group, that group can call itself Venda or Tsonga or Indian or Zulu or whatever name they give themselves. If that group captures it and uses it only for its own, its friends and its and its relatives, give it another name, it doesn't matter to me, but it's wrong, and that's what needs to be addressed.
I just want to go back to something else, Mr. Mahlangu, the issue of if the board is to act is independent, what role then does the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Transitional Affairs play?
Yeah, it has always been, I think, an issue that has been, quite debated. The board is independent, and the in the case of the determination of the municipal boundaries, it is the board that must actually analyze and make a determination. Now, clearly, the provision of the Act does provide for an arrangement where, for instance, the minister would actually determine priorities, and it also, the current demarcation framework does make a provision for a situation whereby particular categories of municipalities, like for instance, category A, the minister ought to be consulted. But that is probably in the spirit of cooperative governance rather than of actually, the board asking permission from the minister. If for instance the board has to determine, say, category A municipalities, it would go through its processes.
What is the difference? I see in Malamulele they are calling for a category B municipality.
Okay.
What's the difference between a category B and a category A municipality?
Oh, well, these are provided in the Act. A category A municipalities is what we call as the metro, which is basically that municipality, largely in the urban areas currently, which don't share any powers and functions with any other municipality. So it's a standalone.
In other words, a category A municipality would not have a district municipality.
It would not have a district municipalities, and it's Section 2 of the Structures Act does actually illustrate what the category A municipalities features are. Then the B and C is where they share functions. The C being a district, the B being a municipality. I think in the case of currently in Malamulele, Thulamela is a category B municipalities under the district municipality of Bembe. Yeah.
The other question, probably Prof, you can come in here. How different is this Malamulele issue compared to the Matatiele issue that was so prominent about 7 years ago? Could be more.
Well, the issues were somewhat different there, because in Malamulele, I think it's more a question of maybe, to use language, wanting their own municipality, but within a particular province. In Matatiele, it actually involved the issue of moving from one province to the next. And that is why, strictly speaking, the mandate of the board really confines it to determine boundaries within a province. The board cannot determine which province a municipality should be. So the Matatiele one was somewhat slightly different to the one here.
Let's whilst we are still talking, let's take this call from Gift from the Free State. Gift, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse. Hello, Gift, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, Gift. What's your question?
Bob Mateza, the problem, it's not a question as such, but it's a comment. Yeah, the problem is that all the provinces, they have a problem of this service delivery. I'm staying in Free State now. As you can look, I'm staying in Sasolburg. You find that people from Parys, they are working in Sasolburg. And a handful of Sasolburg people, they are not working at municipality. You go to Helbron, you go to Coaco, you go to anywhere, you find that there are the people from Parys are working there. So you don't know what do you call it there.
Okay, Gift, thank you very much. We get a gist of your question. I know what you're talking about. It's something that we saw in Sasolburg during your term, Mr. Mahlangu.
Well, there's no longer a problem in Sasolburg. So.
Problem solved.
Yeah, no, problem solved. No, but I think my understanding of the caller is that it is something to some extent that you've alluded to. The problem is actually far beyond Malamulele. You still have got this problem, but I think again, I think Prof has rightly put it. When you have service delivery issue or any issue that is institutional, do you really need to actually separate the municipality? I think that's the core. Or do you, for that matter, do you really need to merge them? Yeah.
Well, when we come back, if you want to join us, you can call us. But when we come back, we'll look at new areas where new municipalities are being configured into metros. I think I know of two, one in KwaZulu-Natal and one in Gauteng. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this.
Where I come from, I have seen poverty, I have lived poverty.
Our concern is extra lessons must be considered so we can be more educated.
The government should try and absorb as many young people into the mainstream economy.
Our country is full of a lot of youth that have suffered as a result of unemployment.
Crime is a monster that is taking our citizens' life.
Accessibility and the distance to get to the clinics, if that can be improved, that would be a great thing for South Africans.
More emphasis should take place to educate people about their human rights.
If you are working for someone else, you are just working so that you can support your family, not for financial freedom. If you want financial freedom, you have to start your own thing.
The State of the Nation address with President Jacob Zuma, 12 February from 6 p.m.
Welcome back. As we were talking earlier, we're going to be talking about the new metros that are being envisaged. But first of all, let's start with this issue. A burning question is, who has the right to determine provincial boundaries vis-a-vis municipal demarcations?
Well, provincial boundaries can only be changed or altered by Parliament. They are protected by the Constitution. So if a boundary of the province has got to be changed in any form or shape, a constitutional amendment must be made. So it has got to be done through Parliament, and there must be a 2/3, I guess.
Oh, this is the constitutional change that was made, the amendment that was made in the case of Matatiele, which was thrown out by the Constitutional Court.
Well, yes. Well, it was thrown out by the Constitutional Court on a lot of different reasons, but it doesn't take the fact away that the actual authority to change a provincial boundary still lies with Parliament. Yeah.
Prof, you earlier, one of the things I have noticed happening with, especially with the configuration of the third metro in Gauteng, the fourth metro in Gauteng, which is the Citibank, and what is it? That includes Midvaal. We seem to be taking poor performing municipalities, lump them together with other municipalities in the hope that if they are a metro, they'll do better.
Yeah, this is why I really think we need a rethink and an audit of all municipalities and the rationale behind how we set up these boundaries. I mean, the idea that if you add poor and rich, the results will be good. And then you end up with these monstrosities, which are so huge that the people from one end have no clue what the people from the other end experience and live in. And you have a perpetuation of the rich areas receiving first priority, almost knee-jerk. I don't think it is even intended. So for me, I agree with you. I think that what we need is a general audit. And I like the minister saying that he would like to take another look. Now, of course, there are also concerns about multiplication of municipalities. You don't want too many because they become too costly. But why is a municipality? What is the work of a municipality? Why do we have it in the first place? It's to provide service to people. If it can't provide service to people, whether it's big or small is irrelevant. And I think if that criteria can be brought back strongly in the discussion of new configurations, it would be a way to go.
Mr. Matlangu, what is the process? Can you let us into the process of creating this fourth metro in Gauteng?
The creation of, in the demarcation board's jargon, recategorization of a municipality to be a metro, it basically follows the same process as all the other proposal. Essentially just stripping all the jargon. Basically the board follows, as I understand it, a process that answers various sets of questions. When a proposal comes in, the board must first ask who is making that proposal.
I was going to come to that.
Yeah, we've already said that the manner in which a proposal that is being made by the minister, or that's being made by the MEC, or that's made by the by the committees will be treated somewhat differently. And then I think the board next question embedded in those legislation is what? What is it being proposed? Is for instance the proposal just for a minor anomaly of the boundary change, or is there a large scale boundary changes that would actually result in then amalgamation, and it's just logic, and again the board in the criteria would ask the question why. Like in the case of why do you need an answer?
Let us get that answer to the why when with this call from Kangweni from Gauteng. Kangweni, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Oh, thanks, how are you?
I'm good. Oh, my name is Kangweni, by the way. I'm from Limpopo actually originally, but I'm in Gauteng because I'm working in Gauteng. I just want to make an input with regard to the situation in Malamulele. Yes. The situation in Malamulele is a very serious challenge that I think the government should also look at it very carefully, because it can have a reversal in terms of social cohesion, because we are talking about vendors in Shangans that it's one of those tribes that have so many issues of intermarriage among them. And then if they are not going to deal with the issue of Malamulele properly, it's going to divide many families, apart from dividing vendors speaking and Shangan speaking people. I understand fully well that one of the schools that was banned last week is one of the schools found in the village of Kakama, that they're saying only vendors speaking children are going to school, so we have to ban this property. So if we are going to ban the property, whereas we are demanding development, we are taking us back. Another issue that I think is also important to look at this issue is to make sure that at the end of the day, whatever the municipality will be, that if they reach a conclusion of having a municipality, that municipality, it will never be possible to have a stand-alone municipality with Shangan speaking people. It will also include vendors. So the government should also look at this issue and deal with it properly, because it has far more consequences than what people are thinking at the moment.
Thank you very much, Ntangweni. Let's come to the Prof. Ntangweni raised a couple of issues there. One, why burn facilities? And apparently the facilities that were burned in one of the villages is a school for vendor-speaking people. The other one is talks about social cohesion, that if government does not look at this thing properly, it could end up, there could be a quagmire in that area. Probably should the government then, in the light of what has happened so far in Malamulele, institute a commission of inquiry?
Look, I mean, the banning of schools should not be excused whatsoever. Whether it is Shangan speaking kids who go to the school or the vendor speaking, it is simply unacceptable. At this time, at this point in our history as a country, the banning of schools is really something we should not tolerate at all. I don't even want to discuss which kids go to a school. It doesn't matter. And in fact, one of the things that I've been very critical of with the Malamulele situation is this situation where kids are prevented from going to school. The lockdown includes kids. I really think we have no right to bargain with the futures of children, even on as important a matter as this. Now, you see, Kangweni speaks about the vendor Shangan interrelatedness. Now, you see, South Africa has moved on. Malamulele is no longer just a place for Tsonga speakers. Thohoyandou is no longer just a place for Venda speakers. It can never be. It will not go back. We can't go back as a country. We have moved on. Which means that both the people of Malamulele and the people of Thohoyandou, whether there is an own municipality in Malamulele or not, but both peoples have to accept that we are now in the new South Africa, and that a Xhosa speaker can go and live in Malamulele, a Zulu speaker can go and live in Thohoyandou, and this is what needs to be accepted, not just by the communities, but also by the municipalities. Because if you have a municipality who is arrested in their mind, who continue to think only in the logic of Venda versus Tsonga, then you have a problem. If you have a government that continues to think only in the logic of Venda and Tsonga, who say, we can't give you a municipality. Why? Because you speak only one language. That kind of reasoning is also not good.
Let's take this call from Guna in Guyana. Guna, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse. Hello, Guna. Yebo. What is your question? Sikona kunjani?
Khona.
TV yakho. Could switch off your TV, Mr. Guna. Mr. Guna. Yes, are you there now? Walt is going to switch off his TV. Can we? You were saying something and I interrupted you. My apologies.
No. What I'm saying is that, you know, this ghost of tribal arrangements, apartheid tribal arrangements, we must exorcise that ghost. All of us, ourselves, our demarcation board, our municipalities, our governments, our communities. And the only way to exorcise it is not to use the reasoning of that time in determining whether you grant a municipality or not, and not to use the reasoning of that time in determining whether you give a tender or not, whether you employ someone or not. And all of these things, we need to unravel them if we are really to come where South Africa is today. So for me, it's not only the problem of the communities continuing to think in that way, but sometimes I think that the board did not use this as part of their reasoning. They only used an economic kind of explanation. But I suspect that there are more issues there than just the economic.
Mr. Mahlangu, as the Prof says, the board did not use the tribal issues and all other issues. I read somewhere in today's papers that the chairman of the board, I'm not saying he must comment on what the chairman says, he says, Malamulele is too poor to have a municipality of its own.
Yeah, you know, even during my term, I'd always maintain that the issue of Malamulele is not really about demarcation. Strange as it may sound, actually by reducing the issue of Malamulele to demarcation, it actually ensures that those issues won't be resolved. And I think, in my view, is that, to just point out to be just purely a demarcation issue is to really going into the common denominator, the lowest at that, which is just about boundary, and yet there are very quite deep, societal issues, which I agree, with Prof. They actually need much more leadership, and I suspect much more, political management.
Well, if you'd really like to take part in this discussion, you can still call us on 011 714 5497 or 5498 or tweet us at Rights Recourse. We'll be back after the break.
Didier Drogba, a footballer from Ivory Coast, was named as the third most influential celebrity in Africa.
Where I saw him display, he's a very nice player. He always make an impact.
Drogba donated his $5 million endorsement fee to the construction of a hospital in Abidjan.
Well, there are some lesser-known football stars in the continent that you haven't met.
Really?
And are deserving of more attention.
I think we will do better.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.
Welcome back to Rights and Recourse. We are discussing the issue of municipal demarcation with the past immediate chairman of the Demarcation Board and Professor Tinyiko Maluleke. Mr. Mahlangu, the issue raised by the Prof earlier about the size of the municipalities, huge municipalities who cannot meet the demands of the people.
Yeah, you know, there is a debate about the effectiveness of the municipality, whether it can be attributed to size. There is a school of thought that says, you know, small is beautiful, basically. If you have,
you know, in fact, in the old apartheid days, they used to have something called the Village Management Board.
You know that whatever.
Only in black areas.
No, you just have them in white areas too. A village management board for small municipalities. I come from an area like that.
You know, the point I was saying is that you need to balance that, and also there is this view that big is better, but is big necessarily better? I think the issue at the local level, you know, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, and being an economist, I would have said it's a no-brainer. You need a municipality with a sufficient number of scale where you could provide services at a much more, you know, reduced cost. But we now must take into account whether doesn't maybe bigger municipalities...
Just hold that thought, Mr. Mahlangu. We'll continue our discussion, but our reporter, Khawhelo Mahuleho, is on the line. Khawhelo, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Afternoon, and thank you very much for having me.
What should we expect in today's meeting in Malamulele?
We are expecting the community to formally, in a mass meeting, formally reflect on the last response from the demarcation board, that is not to grant them a municipality, to take a way forward on that, mainly being to take a decision as to whether the stay away or the shutdown, as it's called, is continuing as it has been, or whether they accept the decision.
I understand it is calm in Malamulele today, in that part of the world.
It is calm, but rather cautiously. There's a strong police presence that has been here ever since the shutdown started. Community members are trickling into what they call boxing gymnasium. It's usually the place where they hold their mass meetings. People are walking in. There's a strong control of traffic. You cannot park anywhere. As I'm speaking to you, we are also battling to get access to the place, but this is preparation for the meeting. They will be given the response formally in very few minutes, and then they'll be given a chance to deliberate on it, and a decision will be taken.
I understand. I know you've just arrived there and you have not necessarily too much time in your hands. What is the vibe on the ground? What do people say to you as you meet them, as you pass them?
Well, the community leaders have been very cautious, saying they would not want to be seen as influencing the mass into a particular direction, that they would rather this matter is dealt purely by a majority of residents, that they will do whatever they are told by residents. Although during the week after a meeting with the two ministers, that is the police minister and Nkosinathi Nhleko, as well as his cooperative governance counterpart, Minister Koren, they did indicate at the time that as a leadership, they were not necessarily hostile to the proposed service delivery package deal that the minister has put forward, but that the final arbiter would be the residents themselves.
Thank you very much, Khawhelo. Thank you very much for your time, and go ahead to that meeting. I think you are trying to get your way to that meeting because you want to know the details of that meeting. Gentlemen, there you have it. I think there are two issues here. The two ministers have been very careful in not to step into the area of the demarcation board, and they promised service. They spoke about service delivery issues, and the board is the only authority that spoke about demarcation. Your view, Prof.
Yeah, I think that is proper. I think it's proper for the ministers to stay out of demarcation issues, at least not overtly, and I think it's proper that the ministers must address issues of service delivery, but what they must understand is that if you define service delivery broadly, in the Malamulele case, it includes demarcation, at least in the minds of the people. So you can't simply command them to think only service delivery without demarcation, because it seems to me for them these issues are related. Now that doesn't mean I agree with them, but I think that looks like where they are coming from. I'm just worried when I hear that the decision will be made by the masses only. I hope that this is just diplomatic talk from the leadership of the task team, because the masses cannot make a decision as such. You need to engage them.
Let's take this call.
Let's
take this call from Limpopo, Prof. I would want to believe the people of Limpopo are adding to our discussion. Good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon.
How are you, Mr. Matatiele?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
Fine, myself, man. I was listening to your show here. You are talking to Masangu, and I do the issue of demarcation, because I'm staying in Delta. These people of demarcation were taking us from Mpumalanga to Limpopo, and the people were trying to fight, and they didn't consult the people, and unfortunately now, until now, those people who don't want to listen to us. And I don't know until when, because that guy was handling this matter. Fortunately enough, he was dying. And at the end of the day, nothing happened. Anything happened. You know, Limpopo is not good for us. It don't service us good. And if those people is rotten, because we are taking us because to secure to position to another people. And then even now, Mr. Matango, don't want to mention the people of Mutsi or where we're going to stay.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. I was going to ask him about Mutsi. Mr. Matango, there's the question. I wanted to ask about Mutsi. The people of Mutsi were going to move from Mpumalanga to Limpopo, and they don't want to go to Limpopo. It's a similar situation as we had in Gauteng about 10 years ago, in Khutsong and in Matatiele, which we spoke about earlier.
Yeah, no, the issues of Mutsi, the facts as I really understand and recall them, is that those were cross-boundary.
Mr. Matau, can you respond to that after we've come back from a break? My apologies. If you want to take part in our discussion, you can still call us on 011-714 5497 5498. We seem to be very busy today with calls from all around the part, especially from Limpopo. Don't go away. We'll be back after the break.
Well, this story is basically about South Africa's top 3 mine bosses, namely Glassenberg, Mr. Motsipe and Desasco, packing in millions despite, the strikes at Marikana and so forth. What are your views?
This cannot continue, because this is a recipe for disaster. Because there's no way workers can be happy if they see these kinds of figures that are being tossed around.
It says that Desasco's salary is 443 times the 12,500 rand that the miners were asking for.
And on what basis? No matter how brilliant you may be, what justifies giving someone that kind of a salary? It's actually sick.
River's mother, Miss June Steenkamp, has done a moving memoir where she explains how her daughter hasn't had sexual intercourse with Mr. Pistorius. What do you make of the story now, Mpumelele?
I must say I disagree with you. It's not a side story. It's a very serious story that got serious implications.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
Welcome back to Rights and Recourse. We are talking demarcation, municipal demarcations, not necessarily about Malamulele, but the Malamulele, that elephant in the room is Malamulele. We're taking a call from Matimba. Matimba, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I just want to comment to the issue of Malamulele. The issue of Malamulele is not for today. The service, people that are very patient, they didn't fight for quite some time. They went to the meetings and they followed the protocols and everything. But no one listened to them. No one listened to us. Malamulele has been an issue for a long time. And if you can check, it's not the issue of tribalism at Malamulele. Some other people that don't want to take the responsibility. They just want to put things like for the tribalism. No, at Malamulele we have vendors, we have everyone there. Even at Trando or Venda, we have people who have relatives there. But Malamulele, there's no delivery services there. You can go around Malamulele villages, not like a town. You'll see that there's a problem. There's a very huge problem of services. I'm from Malamulele, I'm from Shikelan village. But if you can go use those roads there. There's no road there. It's a valley, it's a river. But there's no one who's checking us there. They're going to talk in parliament. They're going to talk everywhere that those people that are happy. No, they must go and do survey. They must go around every villages and check. Not to talk in TV or talk in parliament. People they're making to you.
Thank you, Matimba. You've said a mouthful. It's for us now, gentlemen, to find solutions to this thing. Let's go to solutions. It looks like, I said the elephant in the room is Malamulele. It looks like the elephant in the room is service delivery.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is the heart of the matter. It is service delivery. It is scarce economic resources that people are battling to get hold of. They talk about jobs, they talk about businesses, they talk about water and roads, and of course the constant dance between the local and provincial and the national government. Sometimes municipalities saying, this is not our sphere, we don't fix roads, or that road does not really belong to us, it belongs to the provincial government, and so on. And local people really don't understand this. They don't understand why the road doesn't get fixed, and then it sounds to them like you're giving them an excuse if you say, this is not our road, but this is our road. So I think there is a lot that still needs to be done, including helping people understand the logic of the current arrangements.
Mr. Mahlangu, let's just put something to bed here. Many of the political parties, some of the other political parties in Parliament are saying the demarcation board is actually being influenced politically.
Well, I would not be able to comment on that, but I think I would like to agree partly with Prof and maybe elongate the point to say, for me, if I could now be critical, I can say this because I'm now, outside the board. I think the problem in Malamulele can be solved by better leadership. Now,
leadership in the
leadership on all sides.
On all sides.
On all sides. In my view is, I think the issue that it is service delivered, it's not a new issue. It has always, come. A lot of time, and it is true that the issue around Malamulele has always been with all concerned, for some time. So I really think leadership, in my view, seems to be the key, and perhaps what we are now seeing, that at least we're seeing signs of actually addressing this whole problem. And providing a much more better leadership, from all sides. Yeah.
Prof, earlier in our discussion, as part of a solution, you actually suggested that we should revisit all demarcation across the length and breadth of the country.
I think it would not be a wasted effort if we were to do that. Because I think that some of these boundaries were set up when we were still starry-eyed and we had not really worked out how how this will pan out, especially in relation to service delivery, which has become a big problem in the country now. So I don't think there would be any harm if COCTA was to commission such an audit. And it sounds to me from the noises the minister is making that something akin to that is in any case happening. And I think it's an important thing. Because as I say, people need to understand the logic that located them where they are. You must remember, people have got painful histories. The communities of Malamulele and Thohoyandou they used to live together not so long ago, less than 50 years ago. And then they were separated by the apartheid regime, and people were moved from one area or the other. So this is a community that is not entirely healed, and a community that needs to be taken along when you make changes and arrangements. So I hear...
I just want to give final word to Mr. Mahlangu.
Yeah.
Mr. Mahlangu?
I don't think the issue of reconfiguring the whole municipalities would actually solve the problem currently. Much as yes, I would agree that there needs to be some kind of an audit, but we must understand that at some stage, we need to actually ensure that these structures settle.
Well, for more information on the meeting in Malamulele this afternoon, you can watch SABC News across all SABC's platforms, because Kgaugelo Makgolejo will be giving you the report as to what has happened there. This has been Rights and Recourse. The program is repeated at 10 tonight and 5 on Monday morning. From all of us in the studio, thank you to our guests and good afternoon.